Good evening to you both. And let's begin with Alberta's biggest city taking a tumble down a noteworthy global list. In a yearly ranking of the best places to live in the world, Calgary has fallen from 5th last year to 18th this year.
It's one ranking. There's a lot of other rankings that talk about our affordability, talk about us as a global startup ecosystem. So we kind of look at them as the big picture.
The Economist Intelligence Unit looks at 5 categories in compiling its list of 173 cities. And for Calgary, the hit came for healthcare.
What we hear from Albertans, including in Calgary, is they're worried about accessing the care they need when they need it. You know, they don't have a doctor. The service reductions in facilities, they're on wait lists for cancer care, for surgeries, for MRIs and other testing.
So where do Calgarians land on the city's livability ranking?
Everything else right now, the living cost, that's the biggest problem.
I don't think that's correct. I think Calgary is, to me, it should be #1.
We go out and survey North American business leaders and talent on their view on Calgary. And this year, 75% of all the talent and business leaders that we spoke to said they have a favorable view of our city and they understand the opportunity here.
Topping the Economist list is Copenhagen, while Vancouver is the only Canadian city to crack the top 10. Tom, we're talking about your city here. Calgary took the biggest drop on this global ranking, falling 13 spots. How worrisome a development is this when we're pitching our province as a destination for not only new residents, but new businesses as well?
I think we deserve the hit because it's pretty hard to enjoy, nice parks and safe streets and things like that if you can't get health care. So that's kind of a fundamental thing. And interestingly, I was at a speech by, I won't say the name, but one of the people who's going to run for mayor in Calgary. And he said, and he was lamenting this drop, and he said, it's because we have, bad access to housing. And I checked it online and I said, actually, you're wrong. The thing that contributed was health care. And I guess my own personal experience on this, not my own health care, is that I'm in a group that just finished the Institute of Corporate Directors director training. And it's a very elite course. The people in it are very smart. And they're also pretty well off, most of them. And they were talking about getting skip-the-line insurance right here in Alberta. So you can buy for $5,000 to $10,000 a month an insurance policy that will allow you at the first sign of illness to go to the United States and get diagnosed and maybe treated. That's a bad thing. The fact that smart people are shelling out that kind of money to be able to skip the line does not speak well.
Really does speak to where healthcare fits into the equation. Now, Karen, lessons here for provincial and municipal leaders, if it is that we want Alberta cities ranking higher among the world's most livable.
Yeah, I was also surprised, like Tom was, that housing was not actually one of the factors that they used to do this calculation. But when you look at, for municipal leaders, what is it that they should learn if you're not in a livable city or you're dropping on the list? Some of the factors that they looked at were stability, education, social services, healthcare, cultural and environment, as well as infrastructure. So for Calgary, they fell because of healthcare, but really all the top livable cities had 100% in education. So making investments in those things, infrastructure through transit, making investments in education, social services, that's, I think, how we can then strive as municipal leaders and provincial leaders to ensure that we are top of the list, or at least getting to the top of the list further as time goes on.
Climbing back into the top 10. All right. Well, Calgary has tumbled down the livability list, and Edmonton intersection has landed on a list of 20 nationwide under significant scrutiny. According to the Alberta Motor Association, there is at least one potential fatal near miss at the crossroads of 87th Ave and 149th Street every day.
This situation is really hard to cross the road.
Intersections were monitored with continuous video over a 7-month period. Artificial intelligence used to detect near misses and calculate the level of risk based on vehicle speed and trajectory.
There are going to be people that make a mistake. There are going to be people that do the wrong thing, but how can we reduce the severity? How can we reduce the frequency? How can we reduce the risk?
The nationwide study observed more than 7 million pedestrian and cyclist crossings and registered more than 600,000 near misses.
We can learn from them and implement some improvements before we see crashes and collisions happen, because that's the benefit of learning from this. So there was one that was studied here in Edmonton. The reality is there are dozens of intersections just like that one across the city.
And one intersection in Calgary, one in Lethbridge, also monitored in this nationwide study. Karen, what does this snapshot of just 20 intersections say to you about the safety of our streets, and what do we need to take away from it?
Yeah, they could have taken most any intersection, I think, in a lot of places in Edmonton. The one in particular that they have studied here, I think it's really important because it is one where people are coming straight off the white mud, still thinking about going really fast. There's the left turn for those who are going towards the white mud, and there's always a lineup backed up almost all the way to 142nd Street. So I think that it does speak about planning. There's different things that we can do to try and reduce some of the accidents and near misses, thinking about adding other lanes or dedicated turn lanes. They also in the study had spoken about the idea of having walk signals go before the green light. I think that that could save so many things in different intersections. And that's one that wouldn't even require infrastructure changes. But again, it points to what I said, even in terms of livable cities. How important is transit and the investment in infrastructure for our leaders?
And Tom, what do you make of the technology used in conducting this study, boiling down the data that makes it as relevant as it is?
It's a good use of AI, but you actually don't need AI to see what the problem is. The problem is people going out into the intersection and running in front of cars. Just look at those examples that were shown. And that brings up a little known fact, and this is news you can use. In Alberta, it is illegal to start crossing the street once a pedestrian signal has changed to a flashing hand or a countdown timer. Now, I love those countdown timers to give us an idea even when we're driving, but you're not supposed to go into the intersection. And everybody in that video that you just showed did that. So I think, Karen's absolutely right. Having the walk signal go earlier would be good. That doesn't cost really much money as opposed to putting in extra turn lanes. The worst traffic chaos I ever saw was in the Sound Dome parking lot after the Dalai Lama spoke. Why? Normally that's like dog eat door. I want to get out of there right away. After the Dalai Lama, everyone was so peaceful. No, please, you go ahead. And so it took a long time to get out of the parking garage.
While this week's G7 summit in Kananaskis has come and gone, many memories remain for Albertans working front and center, like the owner of Toolshed Brewing, who is now in need of a long nap.
I was cooking for 3 days straight, all-nighters, on the barbecue. So we got to see all the world leaders come through. We talked to them. They wanted to come check out the barbecues.
And while he can't say if the U.S. president stopped by, Sherman was prepared.
Had to be ready at all times with shrimp cocktail and ice cream, spaghetti and meatballs.
Retailer Kananaskis Outfitters was cleared to remain open through the summit and cater to customers.
Support staff from all the G7 countries, some people that work for the UN, lots of the Canadian security details.
For us to get that kind of exposure and have them there, and then hopefully we will see them back with their families.
And while there was plenty of security, the controlled access zone around K Country has now been removed. Tom, how cool would that have been to rub shoulders with world leaders, be immersed in the G7 summit environment?
It would have been cool, but it also would have been stressful. I skipped my Rotary Club meeting this week because it's in the Palazzo Hotel, and they sent out a warning. You're going to have to go through airport-style security, and we don't know if you can bring a bag. And I went, no, I'm just not coming this week, right, if I have to go through that. Dr. Phil McRae of the Alberta Teachers Association tells a great story. He was invited to speak in January at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and he said it was so neat. You walk down the street, there's Fareed Zakaria, just having lunch and stuff like that. So it would have definitely been fun. And I'm glad to see Australia's Prime Minister went into that store and spent some of their money. And I hope he bought a hat because, they really do need hats in Australia.
Yeah, I understand. It was a whole Aussie crew that came with the PM there. Now, Karen, what do you think will be remembered most about the G7 summit and the impact it's had on our province?
At first I thought maybe the G7 should have kind of been an email, but I think that there is impact in having all of these world leaders really come together and hopefully actually make different changes, really thinking about not just terror, tariffs, but also trying to figure out what is the world building that actually needs to happen to try and address things like environmental change, water. That is something that actually was discussed at G7, although not quite enough, but really looking at what are kind of the rights of people. There's a lot of people who were impacted. The economy is going to take a great hit from it, and there's a lot of exposure that comes. Even the First Nations, the Tsuut'ina Nation, Stephen Crowchild was able to come and have conversations with world leaders as they arrived in his native language, which I think is really something to be appreciated. To me, that's what's impactful, is how are we showcasing what Canada is and what Canada can become, but how are we also holding world leaders to account to ensure it shouldn't just be an email and there is work that's going to come from this.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, one more topic, and it's a painful one for many hockey fans.
Florida Panthers win their second consecutive Stanley Cup.
Boo. That means another frustrating finish for the Edmonton Oilers.
You know, we kept trying the same thing over and over again, just banging our heads against the walls.
The takeaway is that we didn't win. Nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. We didn't win. So, yeah, gonna try again next year.
Yeah, it sucks. It's painful. It's not fun, and not obviously what we wanted.
And while the pain of the loss is sure to linger and the post-cup cleanup continues, many Oilers fans are looking on the bright side.
The team did great. They hammered hard and tried to put it away, but we did our best effort, and hopefully next year we can take it.
They got somewhere, and that's good, but then they kind of lost it, but it's okay. We all lose some to win some.
Seeing the new generation with the little kids with the McDavid jerseys on, we're all on the same team here looking for the same outcome.
Fortunately for the mayor of Edmonton, it means pulling on a Panthers jersey once again. Karen, you're an Edmontonian, so what's your take on how Edmontonians are absorbing the loss for a second year in a row?
Yeah, I was actually hoping this would not have been a topic today because I think it is still a bit too soon. Really, what can you say? What I know is that Edmonton fans will continue to don their Oilers jerseys regardless of what happened now. There's definitely grieving, and I think it's a lot quieter than maybe you would have expected. We really saw this was going to be the year. So there's always next year.
Yeah, there is. There is. Tom, certainly not the outcome the Oilers and their fans were looking for, but what's to be made of the degree of unity the Stanley Cup Finals generated right across the country and at a key moment?
Yeah, last weekend I was at a place called Pigeon Lake, which isn't far from Edmonton, and every cottage there had an Oilers flag, and I've seen cars in Calgary flying them as well. So I think it really did have a unifying factor. I have to say a shout out to a retiring Edmonton broadcaster, Mark Conley at CBC. He put it well. He said the Panthers just played a better game. They were a better team this year, and so I guess that makes it next year, country.
Indeed. Okay. You know what? I think we have about 15 seconds each for a winner. How about that? Karen, 15. Go.
Yeah, I think the biggest winners this week are all the kids who are about to be on summer vacation. And this week, all they're doing is field trips, freezies, hanging out in school, fantasy stuff. So I think they're the winners.
Yeah, that's the story in the Higgins household as well. Tom?
Close to home, we're moving. The whole School of Architecture, Planning and Landscape is picking itself up, and in January 26th, we're going to be downtown in what some people call the Nova Building or the Nexon Building, 801 7th Avenue Southwest. Our dean put it this way: the medical school needs to be next to the hospital. The urban planning and architecture people need to be right where the action is.
Indeed.
So look forward to that.
Yeah, fun times next year. Thank you both. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.